Friends, let's begin with a truth many of us resist. People will only treat you as badly as you allow them to. Boundaries are not walls to shut the world out. They are doors and gates that teach others how to treat us with respect. But there's a painful reality. Some people deliberately test, push, and cross those boundaries, not by accident, but with intention. They do it to gain power, control, and access to your peace. One of the first tests evil people use against your boundaries is to minimize your no. They treat your refusal not as a firm statement of self-respect, but as something negotiable, silly, or even laughable. You might say, "No, I can't do that." And instead of respecting it, they chuckle, roll their eyes, or respond with a dismissive, "Don't be so uptight," or "You're overreacting." What's happening here is more than annoyance. It's a deliberate test. When someone minimizes your no, they're really asking, do you mean what you say, or can I push past it until you surrender? It's not about misunderstanding, it's about power. And here's the truth. If you backpedal, if you soften, if you let them convince you that your no needs explanation or compromise, you've taught them a dangerous lesson. Your boundaries are bendable. Think about it. When a child keeps begging for candy after the parent says no and the parent finally gives in, what happens? The child learns persistence wins over boundaries. Manipulative adults operate the same way, but with sharper skills. They'll minimize your no, not just once, but over and over, to see how long it takes until you fold. So how do you respond? You remember this. No is a complete sentence. It doesn't require footnotes, apologies, or justifications. You don't need to say no because I'm busy. You don't need to say no unless you really need me. You don't need to explain yourself into exhaustion. You're bound. Airy holds more strength in its simplicity. And here's the deeper truth. When people minimize your no, they're not just questioning your decision, they're questioning your worth. They're saying, well, what you want doesn't matter. What I want matters more. Every time you stand firm, you're not just defending a decision, you're defending your dignity. When someone laughs at your no, don't match their laughter. Stay calm, stay grounded. Let your silence and firmness do the talking. Because evil people thrive on reactions, but they wilt in the presence of steady, unapologetic strength. The second way evil people test your boundaries is by using guilt as a weapon. They know that many of us were raised to be kind, to be helpful, to put others first. They twist that goodness against us. Instead of honoring our limits, they shame us for having them. It sounds like this. After all I've done for you, this is how you treat me. If you really cared, you'd say yes. Wow, I guess I know where I stand with you. Do you hear the poison in those words? They're designed to make you second guess yourself, to take your healthy boundary and make it look like betrayal, to make you feel selfish for protecting your own peace. Here's the trap. Guilt is powerful because it taps into your identity. You want to be a good person, a loyal friend, a loving partner. So when someone attaches guilt to your no, it feels like they're questioning your character. And the moment you defend yourself by saying, I didn't mean it like that, you've already stepped into their net. Because now the conversation isn't about your boundary, it's about proving you're not a bad person. But listen closely. Love does not demand you betray yourself. Real friendship, real family, real connection, none of it requires you to break your own values just to keep someone else comfortable. If someone's love depends on you abandoning your boundaries, that's not love, it's control. When guilt is thrown at you, pause. Notice the feeling in your body. Maybe your chest tightens, maybe your stomach sinks. That's the signal you're being manipulated. Instead of defending yourself, stand firm. You don't need to argue or explain. You can simply repeat, this doesn't work for me. Remember this. Guilt is not evidence that you've done something wrong. Guilt in the hands of manipulators is evidence that your no has power, and they don't like it. Your job is not to rescue people from their disappointment. Your job is to honor your truth. Because when you live by guilt, you hand over the keys of your life to someone else. But when you live by integrity, you take your keys back. So when evil people guilt trip you into compliance, see it for what it is, a test. A test of whether you will shrink to please or stand to protect your peace. Choose peace. every time. Another common way evil people test your boundaries is by demanding immediate access to your time, your energy, and even your emotional space. They operate with a sense of entitlement, acting as though your life exists for their convenience. The phone rings late at night, and it's urgent, or at least they say it is. Messages pile up, emails flood in, and they expect instant responses. When you don't reply immediately, they react with frustration, impatience, or even passive-aggressive remarks. This is not about urgency, it's about control. By expecting immediate compliance, they are testing whether your boundaries are negotiable. They want to see how far they can push before you finally give in. And if you do give in, even once, you've taught them a dangerous lesson. Your time and your peace are optional, your presence is disposable, and they can demand it whenever they like. Here's the reality. Your time is one of your most precious resources. How you spend it communicates what you value, and whom you allow into that space shows what you prioritize. When someone continually disregards your boundaries, they are essentially saying, your life is less important than my demands. And that is a clear sign that you need to assert yourself. So how do you respond? The key is clarity and consistency. You can say, I hear you, but I cannot respond right now. I will get back to you when I'm available. You do not owe an immediate explanation, an apology, or justification. Your boundary is not negotiable. Immediate access is a privilege, not a right. And those who do not respect that are showing you exactly who they are. Another important point, people who demand immediate access often rely on your guilt or fear of confrontation to get what they want. They may guilt trip you, I really needed you, or they may create a sense of urgency that isn't real. Recognize that this tactic is about control, not necessity. By responding calmly, deliberately, and on your terms, you remove their power. Finally, remember this, enforcing your boundaries around your time is not selfish, it's self-preservation. If you never protect your availability, you will end up exhausted, resentful, and drained. People who truly care about you will respect your limits. Those who don't are revealing themselves, and their behavior is a gift in disguise. It teaches you who belongs in your life and who does not. Boundaries around your time are sacred. The next time someone demands immediate access, pause, breathe, respond from your power, not their pressure. In doing so, you teach them and yourself that your peace is non-negotiable. One of the most insidious ways evil people test your boundaries is by disguising control as care. At first glance, it looks like concern, protection, or love, but if you look closely, it's a trap. They say things like, I'm only looking out for you, or I'm doing this for your own good, all while making decisions for you, invading your privacy or dismissing your choices. This tactic is clever because it preys on your natural desire to trust, to believe the best in people, and to give others the benefit of the doubt. They know that if they cloak manipulation in care, you are less likely to resist. You begin to question yourself. Am I overreacting? Maybe they really do know better. But here's the truth. Healthy care empowers. Toxic care disempowers. Think about it. True care respects your autonomy. It doesn't impose, it doesn't dictate, and it certainly doesn't diminish your voice. When someone truly cares, they offer advice, they provide support, but they don't override your decisions. When someone manipulates care to control you, they are signaling that your judgment, your desires, and your personal agency are irrelevant. Often this tactic comes with subtle emotional pressures. I'm doing this because I love you and you should appreciate it. Or if you trusted me, you'd let me handle it. Notice how quickly guilt and obligation creep in. You may feel ungrateful, selfish, or even cruel for asserting your own needs. That is exactly what they want you to feel. The antidote is awareness. Recognize the difference between genuine concern and disguised control. Ask yourself, does this action respect my autonomy, or is it forcing me to bend to someone else's will? If it's the latter, it's not care, it's control. And the stronger your boundaries, the less room there is for this kind of manipulation. Here's another truth. You are not responsible for someone else's discomfort when you assert your boundaries. Evil people will often frame your boundary as hurtful because it conflicts with their desire to dominate. But discomfort is not your responsibility. Self-respect is. Every time you uphold a boundary against disguised control, you reclaim power, protect your emotional space, and demonstrate that your life belongs to you, not to anyone else. And see, no matter how convincingly they cloak their intentions. Finally, know that recognizing this pattern is liberating. Once you see through the disguise, you are no longer manipulated by it. Your boundaries become your shield, and your discernment becomes your superpower. You will no longer confuse love with control or kindness with coercion. You will see people for who they truly are and respond with wisdom, courage, and uncompromising self-respect. Evil people rarely start with the big, obvious violations of your boundaries. Instead, they begin small, tiny encroachments designed to see how much you will tolerate. They borrow things without asking, make casual comments that cross your personal lines, interrupt you in conversations, or make decisions for you without consent. At first, these small acts may seem insignificant, even ignorable, but they are a test to see whether your boundaries are firm or flexible. Why do they start small? Because if they attempted a major violation first, you might push back immediately. But small trespasses are easier to overlook, and if ignored, they pave the way for larger, more invasive behaviors. Each small act that goes unchecked teaches them that your boundaries are negotiable, optional, and ultimately weak. For example, imagine a colleague constantly taking credit for your ideas during meetings. At first, it's minor. One idea here, a small comment there. You might think it's not worth making a scene. But if you allow it, the behavior escalates. Soon, your work is consistently claimed by others, and your voice is muted. The small trespasses were never small. They were the rehearsal for bigger violations. The lesson here is profound. Boundaries are built in the everyday, the mundane, and the small moments. They are not established only in the moments of crisis. Every time someone crosses your personal line, even slightly, you have a choice. Let it slide or assert yourself clearly. Assert yourself now and you prevent future escalation. Every yes you give unwillingly, every small compromise you make out of convenience chips away at your autonomy. Another example is personal space. Someone repeatedly interrupts your work, messages you constantly, or drops by uninvited. If you let these small intrusions slide, they learn that your time and space are theirs to command. The moment you respond with firmness, set boundaries, say, "I need my space," or enforce rules, you communicate clearly that your limits are non-negotiable. And here's a deeper truth. Small trespasses are not just about control. They are about testing your self-worth. The question being asked by the violator is always the same. Do you value yourself enough to protect your peace? Or will you sacrifice it to avoid conflict? Your response tells them, and more importantly, tells you exactly where you stand. So the next time someone makes a minor intrusion, notice it. Do not dismiss it as trivial. Speak up, enforce your boundary, and remain consistent. Small acts ignored grow into patterns of disrespect, while small acts challenged build a fortress of self-respect that no one can breach. Remember, boundaries are like muscles. They grow stronger each time they are exercised. Every time you say, "No, I will not allow this," even for the small things, you are preparing yourself for the larger challenges. Don't wait for a major violation to defend yourself. The small trespasses are the training ground for lifelong resilience. One of the most powerful ways evil people test your boundaries is by exploiting your compass. Cyan, compassion is a beautiful quality. It allows us to empathize, to care, and to respond to the suffering of others. But manipulators see compassion not as a gift, but as a weakness. They will use it against you, bending your kindness to serve their own agendas. This usually starts subtly. They play the victim, exaggerate their struggles, or dramatize minor inconveniences to make you feel responsible. I don't know what I would do without you. Or you're the only one who can help me, please don't say no, are common refrains. They are testing how far your empathy will stretch and whether your desire to help will override your own needs. The danger here is that compassion can blind us. We start to prioritize their problems over our own well-being, believing that helping them defines our worth. Over time, we may feel drained, resentful, and trapped. What was once a strength becomes a liability when it is exploited. True compassion, however, never asks you to sacrifice your dignity or abandon your boundaries. Real empathy uplifts, but it does not manipulate. Manipulative people, on the other hand, turn compassion into a chain, subtly convincing you that your sense of morality depends on doing what they want rather than protecting yourself. Here's an important truth. Your responsibility is not to rescue everyone. You are not obligated to fix someone else's life, solve every problem, or absorb their pain at the cost of your own peace. When you start saying, no, I cannot do this for you right now, or I need to protect my own boundaries first, you are not being selfish. You are exercising discernment. You are learning to care for yourself while still holding compassion. Manipulators often push this test further by implying consequences if you refuse, I'll be lost without you, or if you really cared, you'd help me. These statements are not genuine. They are pressure tactics. Compassion without boundaries is like a boat with a hole in it. No matter how much effort you put in, you will eventually sink. But compassion with boundaries is powerful. It allows you to give without losing yourself, to support without being used, and to care without compromising your integrity. Every time you recognize and resist the exploitation of your compassion, you grow stronger. You reclaim your energy, your autonomy, and your self-respect. You teach others that your kindness is not a tool for manipulation. It is a conscious choice, given freely and safely when it aligns with your values and limits. Remember, boundaries and compassion are not opposites. They are partners. Compassion without boundaries is vulnerability in the hands of the wrong people. Boundaries without compassion may seem cold, but when balanced, they create strength, clarity, and protection. And that is exactly what evil people fear, a person who is both compassionate and unyielding. One of the most predictable and intimidating ways evil people test your boundaries is through anger. The moment you assert yourself, the moment you say, no, I will not allow this, or this behavior is not acceptable, some people will react with fury. Yelling, storming out, slamming doors, accusing, blaming. These are all classic tactics to intimidate and regain control. Their anger is not about you, it's about power. It's a test to see if your boundaries are strong enough to withstand pressure, fear, and chaos. They want to see if your courage will falter, if you'll shrink, apologize, or back down to restore temporary peace. If you do, you've sent the message that your limits are negotiable and you will test them again and again. What makes this tactic especially dangerous is that it can make you question yourself. Did I overreact? Did I cause this anger? Should I just let it go to avoid conflict? These are the traps they hope you'll fall into. They want you to feel responsible for their emotions as if your boundary has somehow hurt them. But here's the truth. Their anger is their own problem. Your job is not to manage their feelings. It is to protect your integrity and your peace. How should you respond? The key is calmness. Stand firm, remain composed, and refuse to engage in their emotional storm. Let your boundaries speak louder than their yelling. Sometimes silence is the most powerful response. Sometimes walking away and enforcing consequences is the clearest message. Your anger does not control me. My peace is non-negotiable. Remember, anger is often a mask for fear. When someone is confronted with your courage and the firmness of your boundaries, their emotional response is designed to scare you into submission. But fear is powerless in the presence of clarity. By maintaining your composure, you reclaim the power they sought to steal. Additionally, witnessing their anger is a lesson in discernment. People who cannot honor your boundaries without reacting aggressively are revealing their true character. They are showing you exactly what kind of relationship they are capable of offering. And knowing this is not only liberating, it is protective. Every time you confront anger with calm and integrity, you grow stronger. You teach yourself that peace is not granted by others, it is defended by you. You show the world that your boundaries are not negotiable and that no amount of intimidation will make you compromise your self-respect. The final way evil people test your boundaries is perhaps the most brazen. They act as if your boundaries never existed at all. You have communicated clearly, you have said no, and yet they carry on as if you never spoke. They ignore your limits, bypass your requests, and behave as though your voice has no weight. This is not forgetfulness, it is deliberate disregard. When someone pretends your boundaries don't exist, it's a direct challenge. They want to see if you will enforce your limits or if you will let them walk over you without consequence. Their behavior is designed to provoke frustration, doubt, and resignation. You may start asking yourself, am I overreacting? Maybe I'm too strict. Perhaps I should just let it slide. This is exactly what they want. The danger here is that if you do nothing, you teach them and yourself that your boundaries are optional. This can lead to repeated violations, escalating disrespect, and a gradual erosion of your sense of self. What starts as ignoring a boundary, in one instance, often becomes a pattern of manipulation and control. How do you respond? Consequences. Boundaries without consequences are powerless. It is not enough to state your limit, you must enforce it. This can mean removing yourself from the situation, refusing to engage, or clearly articulating that repeated violations will result in distance or loss of access. Your actions communicate the message loud and clear. I exist. My limits matter. I will not be ignored. Pretending your boundaries don't exist is also a test of your resilience and self-respect. It is a challenge to see whether you will shrink, apologize unnecessarily, or let others dictate the terms of your life. By standing firm, you assert your autonomy, reclaim your energy, and protect your dignity. It's important to remember that when someone ignores your boundaries, it reflects on them, not you. Their inability to respect your limits shows their character, their lack of empathy, and their desire for control. You are not failing, you are learning. You are learning who deserves space in your life and who does not. Every time you enforce a boundary in the face of someone pretending it doesn't exist, you send a powerful message. Your life, your energy, and your peace are non-negotiable. You teach the world, and more importantly, yourself, that your voice matters, your choices matter, and you will not be silenced. In this way, boundaries are not just rules, they are declarations of self-worth. And the ability to enforce them consistently transforms challenges, disrespect, and manipulation into opportunities for empowerment, strength, and clarity. Friends, boundaries are not just rules. They are declarations of who you are, what you value, and what you will no longer tolerate. Evil people will test these boundaries in countless ways, minimizing your no, guilt-tripping you, demanding immediate access, disguising control as care, making small trespasses, exploiting your compassion, reacting with anger, or pretending your boundaries don't exist. Each of these tactics is a test, not just of your limits, but of your courage, clarity, and self-respect. But here's the truth. Every test is also an opportunity to stand firm, reclaim your power, and strengthen the fortress of your